Welcome to Grieve with Ease, a podcast where we talk about the many sides of loss and death. On each episode, you'll hear from a cross-section of men and women who share how they dealt with loss, found comfort, and even humor during what many consider a very dark time. The show is designed to bring comfort, answer questions, and let you know you are not alone. Now, here's your host, Martika Wiley.
So thank you so much, Corey, for being here. Corey Jung is a United States Marine Corps veteran and has had a career as a technical athlete. Corey studies and practices deeply in the subjects and his principles of mindset, recovery, nutrition, and movement. Welcome, Corey.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. And yourself?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me, Martika.
Well, thank you so much for being here. So, Corey, being, I guess a Marine Corps veteran and having studied recovery, nutrition, and movement, and that sort of thing, when it comes to loss, what is your biggest struggle, do you think?
I would say what comes to my mind is the many stages of grief. And getting to the one in particular that have acceptance. There's the ones that precede that often, and it's not easy, is it?
No.
And I really feel what comes to my mind is that I feel it's best that we have patience. We embrace our humanness and give ourselves time. And that it's okay not to be okay sometimes. It's part of our humanity.
Yes, because we're out of sorts when we lose someone or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel to the point that we are grieving is to the point that we had loved well. Just because the person may no longer be in a physical form doesn't mean that they're not there in spirit, in your memory. And that to the point that we're grieving is to the point that we love deeply, perhaps, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And what have you lost that was challenging for you?
Well, in the beginning, it was my mother, at 6 months old, as she hung herself. A typical person experiences about 1 to 3 critical incidents in a lifetime, and a loss of a loved one, friend, family member, especially tragically, is definitely fits within that definition of critical incident. So I started out with my first one, that of my mother, within the first 6 months of my life. Death is an aspect of life. Let's just say it's the trough to the crest of a wave. You can see it within the seasons. You can see it within the rhythms of life. It's perhaps the nighttime. It's perhaps, it's the nighttime to the sun. It's the winter to the summer. It's the exhalation to the inhalation. It is seamless, and it is all interdependent, but that doesn't necessarily make it any easier for us humans, is it? Does it?
No. Even though you've been there before, you've gone through most of the stages and come out on the other side with acceptance, and that usually takes years. And for me, I could lose a friend, a family member, a pet even, and I'm right back where I was. But at least I have something tangible to work with. And because I've been there before, like many of us have, I feel that we at least know where or who to turn to.
Right.
When it comes to support. now I find, and maybe it's just me, but because I'm in this work, but there are lots of resources and groups and death cafes and there is support out there. There's now Clubhouse, and sometimes they have rooms where you can go in there and share some of your sorrow with others that are willing to support you and listen, whereas that wasn't there before. So especially in these times. So I'm looking at it in an optimistical point of view where we're all going to grieve at some point, go through loss, whether it's a person, a place, a thing. But be able to handle it with grace and notice that there can be tremendous growth and opportunity to thrive amidst the trauma of loss. Do you find that?
Absolutely. I feel like we were speaking about earlier is that it's all, they're all interwoven with each other, life and death. And that to the point that I'm at peace with death, perhaps I can be fully present and live fully. Death can teach you quite a bit about life. It's somewhat poetic in that way. And it reminds me of this, is that life is perhaps similar to that of an opera. It's in that we have many aspects. We have a drama at times, a romance, a comedy, and a tragedy. And that's life in its fullness and its richness. So there is some sadness, challenge, tragedy at times, but there is also beauty. And I think they work together in tandem at times, like a dance. We oscillate in and out. If we never knew pain, sorrow, suffering, tragedy, perhaps we wouldn't have as much of a reverence and a richness of the beauty within life. It reminds me of Homer in the Iliad. If some of us recall, reading that some time ago, and that I remember this part within that writing is that I'll give a quote right now. Any moment might be our last. Everything is more beautiful because we're doomed. You will never be more lovelier than you are now. We'll never be here again. And so to just really devour every moment, every precious moment, and that every moment is a moment with an eternity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being grateful for this moment because you don't know. You never know.
Absolutely.
Life has a way of throwing curveballs at us and catching us off guard.
It's called present for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Each moment is a present, is a gift.
Mm. So what has your life been like then, losing your mom at 6 months old?
Well, death often is, especially early humans, it was part of a ritual. It was an initiation rite, often at times, to get people to where they were familiar, they were at ease, and they could live fully. So I guess I was initiated early on, but then after that, I did have a challenging childhood upbringing. I was angry, I would say, a lot of times. A lot of times anger is, really rooted deep. It's interwoven, entangled with fear, as well as hate. often that's entangled with fear. But I didn't have the guidance and perhaps the love that I might had, and the people who did raise me, they were abusive, unfortunately. And we were talking prior to the recording that unfortunately hurt people. That's very human. Mm-hmm. And sometimes hurt people even hurt themselves, unfortunately. It's taken me some time, but I would say by around my mid-30s or so, I really started to let go and accept, drop some of the armor that I had built up around me, and to be vulnerable, and to also, I hadn't cried for a number of years. I think by the time I was 35, the last time I had a really, heartfelt type of cry was when I was 12. So allowing myself to feel, that's part of the human experience again too. Mm-hmm. It's at the point that we deny ourselves feeling the emotions. We're denying an aspect of our humanity, and we might as well be automatons at that point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, emotions are so important, because I find that's where manifestation, somehow it fuels that. If you really desire something, the universe communicates through feeling. So you feel that love, you feel that anxiousness, what have you, that passion. And of course, it depends on whether it's a positive or negative emotion. Whatever you send out, it comes back. I just want to give you a huge hug, Corey. I couldn't imagine 6 months old and losing a parent, and a loving parent. It sounds like, in maybe 6 months you wouldn't have really known her, but I don't know. I just get the feeling that she was, a good person. Do you mind me? So do you ever sense her at all? Have you seen pictures of her? Do you have anything like that?
I have no pictures, unfortunately. The parents who adopted me, I don't know if they had any access at all, but none of that was handed down to me. And even through my searches on the internet, I'm not able to find any pictures of her. I find, documents with her name, and that's about it at this point. But I would say I have, in the big picture, despite some of the difficulties, despite some of the tragedy and the pain, that I consider myself fortunate. I do have gratitude, and I have been able to successfully survive some encounters where I'm pretty damn lucky to have, and I feel perhaps she was in my corner in some ways. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And we were talking about emotions, and this is even now emotional for me, but I don't hold back anymore when I start to have a moment. Tears water the roses.
Yes.
In my opinion now.
Mm-hmm. And this is always a safe place.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I find that our loved ones, when they leave us, especially early, do watch over us, and then we have another guardian angel. I believe we all have one, whether you want to call them spirit guides or ancestors or guardian angels or what have you. Many of us, I believe, have more than one when we come to this physical realm, just to help guide us.
I feel that way as well.
Mm-hmm. So do you sense her? Do you get a feeling that you know that she's with you?
Well, this is the way I see it. And, everybody's belief system is going to be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these thoughts come to my mind, and I don't know, let's just say the speed of light, if I recall correctly, is about 186,000 miles per second or so. And then let's just say our soul, once we leave this physical form, is moving at that speed. Within about 100 years' time, it still will be within the Milky Way galaxy. And I remember reading a quote from Black Elk, a Sioux medicine man. And he said something along the lines that the center of the universe is everywhere and circumference nowhere. And so, and I recall perhaps Joseph Campbell, the professor of mythology years ago, saying something along these lines too, is that the center of the universe is within me. The center of the universe is within you. The center of the universe is between you and I now. And so I say that's where she is. Mm-hmm. Everywhere and nowhere. And I remember as a child growing up, my adopted parents had a statue figure. I don't know if you're familiar or anyone in the audience. Well, maybe they are, some of at least. A figure of the Kuan Yin deity from Buddhism. And the deity of Kuan Yin is the goddess of compassion. And it always resonated with me. And perhaps that's where, it's Kuan Yin perhaps is synonymous with my mother.
She was compassionate. You feel her compassion?
I feel so.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how, we cannot see beyond the physical, but we could feel, can't we?
Absolutely. I mean, I think sometimes the mind is like a double-edged sword at times. There's pros and cons to it. And I feel often in the modern day world that it's somewhat of a, it's a bit more temporal in its function. And there is a world I feel and experience, at least, that's beyond that of the eternal. The time is circular in its fullness. For instance, time isn't as linear as many of us would think it is, because within the temporal world, a lot of our day-to-day life is centered around business, right? In billable hours. That's linear time. That's I feel, going back to the Greeks, it's chronos. Chronos is linear time. Kairos is seasonal time, but then you have time beyond time, a time before time, eternity, that of aeon. And I feel that's where a lot of the magic, a lot of the mystery, a lot of the beauty resides. And I feel that's essential, once again, to our humanity. I think you might hear something along the lines on the news when it comes to the climate, when it comes to many of the challenges facing humanity. And there's so much emphasis I hear that it is in regards to the sciences, science, technology, engineering, and math is going to save us. I feel those are tools. There's a time and a place they'll be helpful, but what's going to save us, if anything, is the humanities. We need the humanities to save humanity from itself. And so the arts, the poets, the singers, the dancers, they help to bridge the two worlds. They help to bridge the temporal world back to the eternal world. And I feel a lot of what we're talking about here now, when it comes to suffering, has a lot to do, once again, with the eternal world, and less so of the temporal world.
Yeah, I am. It's an interesting way to view it. Mm-hmm. I find that, we grieve because we are left behind.
Yeah, because life here and now, and we can just open a history book, for instance, and we can see it, that unfortunately a lot of humans haven't been, let's just say, living to their fullest spiritual potential, and hurt people, and then perhaps hurt nations, hurt other nations. And if people really got it at a heartfelt level, what it is that we're talking about, that wouldn't be happening, would it?
No, not at all.
You see?
No.
And, yeah, it's we're an interesting species, as Carl Sagan had once said, if you recall him. Maybe I'll pull up one of his quotes. But there's a lot of opportunity, I would say, within suffering. To learn and to love. To learn and to love. Can I read one of the things that I was just thinking of when we were talking?
Yeah.
Carl Sagan came to my mind. So he said, "You're an interesting species, an interesting mix. You're capable of such beautiful dreams and such horrible nightmares. You feel so lost, so cut off, so alone. Only you're not. See, in all our searching, the only thing we've found that makes the emptiness bearable is each other." That's from his last book, Contact, which was also made into a movie with Jodie Foster, if you recall.
You've seen that movie?
Yeah.
That is so true. Human connection is really where it's at, which is another way of saying love really is the answer. Yeah, my favorite Beatles song is All You Need Is Love. It's my go-to feel-good song. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's the ultimate. It's the ultimate feeling, because without love, and I've seen this happen within my own life and other people, that a lack of love really can kill someone.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, and maybe this rings a bell with you as well, I think they saw in orphanages was either World War One or World War Two. We had so many infants, orphaned because of the war, and that the nurses were just, overwhelmed, understaffed, and unfortunately, some of the infants who were orphaned didn't get sufficient amount of attention, physical nurturing, and unfortunately, some of those infants perished. And I think there's a term, it's called with failure to thrive, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And even developmentally wise, if a child doesn't have that connection with one or both of their parents early in life, that can have a profound negative impact on their development, mental, emotional, and I feel even physical development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I believe that to be true as well. And I was reading the Book of Joy with His Holiness Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and they talk about that. The first few hours of a newborn is very, very critical to, being held and being fed, but being held, because they say even preemies, premature borns that go in an incubator have less likely chance of those that are being held. They need to feel your heartbeat. They need to feel your breath. They need to feel that love. That's right. What helps them to get to heal themselves.
Well, as an infant, you're not able to self-regulate your own neurohormonal system, as well as when you're more developed. I mean, when they are cooing, for instance, that is a form of self-soothing, self-regulating, but they need the additional external support. So humans were social creatures, and so even as adults, especially within our relationships, especially the ones that are close and intimate, a lot of what's occurring is an aspect of co-regulation. And so when you're hugging someone, you're helping to support. It's interdependent. You're supporting each other's nervous systems and the restorative branch, right? And less of the other side of that of fight, flight, or freeze. Mm-hmm. And singing together and chanting together, that helps with the vagus nerve stimulation of the vocal cords and the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system once again. So there's so much power and beauty with this unity, this interdependency. And I would say, you were mentioning, even those who have departed, before us. I feel many cultures look to the ancestors to assist them here on earth with the struggles of life. I mean, some of the malevolence and some of the tragedy, they help to, even the stories help to bring about some of the equanimity, despite some of the harsh realities of life. We need the assistance, and none of us live on an island to ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's so important to be part of a community and have support and love and friendships and love of self, and to heal the hurts so that it doesn't keep, the situations don't keep repeating themselves.
Right. And I feel this, and my mother once again comes to my mind, is that to the point that I heal myself, I help to heal her, and perhaps my other ancestors in addition, going back however far. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, I feel that we are all one, like there's many aspects. There's like, what's the old saying? There's the many within the one and the one within the many, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So if hurt people, well, flip that over. Take that coin and flip it over. If people are vital and loving, a vital person helps to vitalize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we can turn our grief inside out sometimes, and we can use it to help propel us. And like we were saying, roses, tears help water the roses. Perhaps grief can help, water and propel the love. It's like kind of a rubber band of sorts. Mm-hmm. You pull it back and it can snap back in the equal opposite direction. And so when we're going through, like when we're in the middle of it, let's say, accept it and be with it, but then just consider something like this, similar to the seasons of nature, that it's never winter all the time, right? Eventually it makes its way for the spring.
Mm-hmm. And
time does heal. Time does heal, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were saying?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, grief can be, something. You could turn it into something beautiful. Something tragic can be turned into something beautiful, and that's, you cannot know sorrow without joy. And so these are the things that I try to remind myself when I'm going through something, not very pleasant, like a death. And so, I still get angry with God. I give God a good old fashioned talking to. And and then the answers that I get are like, oh, okay. And they're profound. And then I feel silly for yelling at God, but that is, again, part of the process. If you're going to get angry with anyone, it should be the creator, whether you call it God, Jah, Allah, Buddha, what have you. So I've had a lot of epiphanies, if you will, getting angry.
Oh yeah.
Being in that state of like, why is this? I cannot handle anymore, and I just, sometimes become more suicidal with these experiences. And so, and not really understanding, but then the understanding does come. And then when you do understand it, you're like, oh, okay, and you can look back and say, this is why it happened. This is why this happened for, and not, for, in other words, for something else to be born.
Right. Right. It's mental, emotional, perhaps spiritual alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what comes to my mind.
Yeah, exactly. So anytime something terrible happens, somehow it's a good thing. I try to see this whole pandemic as, a blessing, more of a blessing in disguise than not. To try to be grateful for it, to see the good in it. But at the same time, visualizing the world that I'd like for us to live in. And I think we're all the same human beings when it comes to what we desire, what we want. We all want to be happy. We all want to be loved. We all want to be heard and be able to express ourselves. And that's across the whole board. So we're not so different.
No. At a heart level, this is evident. Sometimes the mind gets in the way. I'd say, feel more, think less at times. There's something that I remember coming across years ago, and it really it really spoke to me and helped me, I felt, when it comes to this. And if I can share it with you.
Yeah, sure.
It's from Scott Eberly, who had a career in palliative care. And this is from his book, The Final Crossing, Learning to Die in Order to Live. And this is an aspect of the book. It's described as the Death Lodge. And then from what I recall, the Death Lodge is some tradition, ritual somewhere in the Southwest in the United States with the native people there. And that when a person's about to cross over, prior to that, they're having time with their loved ones, their friends and family. They're getting complete, we might say, in a way. And so this is an exchange that takes place between, the people within that setting. Is that they'll say something along the lines, there's 5 things. And the first one is, please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. I love you. And goodbye. I feel it's very powerful and healing. And for myself, I would say that doesn't just apply in that context. I say we could perhaps have this as a daily practice with our friends, family, and loved ones. Mm-hmm. Why do I have to wait when I'm at the threshold? We can maybe get complete each and every moment, each and every day, and be at peace.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Forgiveness is a big one,
Absolutely.
Yeah, when our loved ones pass, I forgave my mom for committing suicide when I was 15. It took a long time for me to do that. But yeah, and I forgave myself for being, angry with her and feeling abandoned, and a lot of forgiveness. Now, did you have a book that you've written? Have you written anything?
Not as of yet. I would say I have one in my head, but I'm more of a storyteller, oral storytelling. I feel it's much more powerful. Perhaps at some point. I don't know. How about yourself?
Yes, I have written a book called Having Fun with God. I just found writing to be very therapeutic. And so a lot of my guests have had books. That's why I asked if you had a book. But yeah, I just find it very therapeutic, and it's kind of nice to share your story with others to help them kind of get through whatever kind of grief they're going through. And it sounds like you've got a really interesting one there, Corey. So I would encourage you to write if you like, or even if you're not one to sit and write, and you love the oral, just to record stories and then get somebody else to write them out.
I have been batting around an idea, but I wasn't thinking a book, but some other sort of, presentation, let's say. And it's interesting. I was even playing around with a name the other day, as far as, the title of whatever. And maybe this would be helpful. Since we're on this subject now. I was thinking perhaps naming it A Modern Human Being's Guide to Everyday Myth. So we'll see.
Well, that's a good title. Well, yeah, it's something to think about. I'm just saying it's really good for your own personal growth, and you might find yourself thinking, wow, I should have done that a long time ago. But like me with the writing, I had no idea writing would be therapeutic. I was really just into music. I find music very therapeutic, so I'll turn to music. But yeah, I'm just curious because I'm sure other people would be interested in your story if you were to, record your stories and then have it, transcribed.
Well, there's so much that we share within our humanity. And so through the sharing of our stories, it helps other people with their story. I feel this is something, well, I guess we all are really at the end of the day, that we all are within our own hero's story, our own hero's journey, our own hero's quest, and that we get to author that. And that's the role of the hero, right? There's a separation, there's an initiation, and then there's a return, right? We return to share and help others with their journey, their story. That's our responsibility. When the tide comes in, all ships rise. Right, so we're trying to help, all the ships rise with us. It reminds me that there was this acronym that I heard a while back. HOPE, right? That comes up a lot of times. We can break down HOPE like this: help our people elevate.
I like that. Yes. And I like hope. Hope is a good word.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. Can I leave you and your audience with something else?
Yes, I would love that.
And I've been collecting these throughout the years, and this is another saying from the Aboriginal people of Australia. And some people feel that perhaps they're the oldest culture of human civilization, going back perhaps 45,000 years or so. So imagine all their experiences and wisdom over those many thousands of years. So they say this: we are all visitors to this time, this place. We are just passing through. Our purpose here is to observe, to learn, to grow, to love, and then we return home.
Beautiful. And so true. So true. Thank you so much, Corey, for being here. I do appreciate you and your story.
Thank you, Martika. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Martika.
My heart goes out to you. I'm giving you virtual huggies.
Likewise, we could have a big hugging and love fest.
Yeah, you know what? This is what I want to do after this is all over. I want to challenge people to group hug fest. The bigger the group, the better. Something more like how the ice bucket challenge became to be such a huge success, in the sense where a lot of people were were practicing it. I think it'd be so cool to have a group hug fest. Get as many people as you can and group hug it out and record it and count how many people there are and see if the next group could top that. Yeah.
I love it.
I'd be down.
I love it.
For that.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Likewise. And thank you very much, Martika. Thank you for your work.
Thank you for being here.
You've been listening to the Grieve with Ease podcast with your host, Martika Wiley. We hope you found comfort with what you heard. Be sure to leave a rating and review of the Grieve with Ease podcast show and visit our website at grievewithease.com.